Hello, everybody. Welcome to another installment of Show to Be with Mike G, the show of life, the show of the Navy SEALs, the show of Juniper and Austin, drumming, Sound City, lots of music in this chat. I know, I'm probably about to bore you talking about Fugazi, Pennywise, Bad Religion, punk rock, touring, drumming, lots of amazing things today in this chat with bar manager at Juniper and Austin, Chris McClish. It is an instant kindredness, if you will, when a drummer, all jokes aside, when a drummer comes into the studio and we talk music, we're surrounded by guitars. It's really a brilliant tale, and music is such a great starting point to learn how things interact with each other, to learn how to play with other people nicely, play with egos of vocalists, play with the eccentricities of guitar players. Being in a band is yet a nice analogy, a nice metaphor and parallel to being in the hospitality industry. So this is a really great chat with Chris, and I hope you guys enjoyed this conversation with Chris McClish.
Isn't that cool? Yeah, it's interesting. They keep asking me to do interesting things.
Without naming stuff, what kind of other? They didn't have you like doing homeless dinners or something, did they? Like, what exactly did they?
No, that probably would have been better for the world. No, there would just be, all of a sudden, like I would show up and they'd be like, Chronicle's doing a little thing on, so come up with a book and write make a cocktail out of it. No, okay, I'm in the middle of, again, like trying to start this restaurant. And I'm just like, what the hell have I read lately? I'll read the news, but that's about all, what I'll have.
But you did really dig deep, right? Like the winter of our discontent, I'm going to have something.
Yeah, and I was like, I could do that, but shit, I feel like I'd be lying. So let me just do the last book I read and then come up with something,
That's interesting.
Yeah, and it kind of took place in Chicago, so I was like,
cool.
Oh, my Lord, everybody hates that or loves it, so let's use that in a cocktail. So did that, and they put it out there, and like the little Instagram and everything, and saying like, "Oh, you come by and ask for this drink." Nobody's asked for the drink.
I love how from because you're talking about technology too, like how people are really trying to diversify the way. So, it's a retweet. Like that's not enough.
Right.
Did they show a picture of Chris with a different team's jersey on, wearing a football helmet while running uphill making a cocktail? Like you're having to go through this gauntlet to like really get traction.
Yeah, it's a much different world now. Food and beverage wise, it's good and it's interesting. Like I'm glad that I can go to places and get great drinks or get like a really high-end prosciutto or something like that at the store, which is nice. I mean, I remember when I was younger and trying to find these things, it was just impossible.
It's different.
So it's different now. There's a huge entertainment aspect to it. But it is, I think, just the nature of the business now, and you either adhere to it a little bit and get used to it, or you'll
get
be a little
some celebrity.
Yeah, or
you're pocket, right?
Yeah, or you're a dinosaur. Personally for me, I just like to kind of work, but I mean, it is, just like being in a band, the same sort of idea.
DIY.
Exactly. I mean, you have to. It's just part of the job now.
Man, so I'm at a law. I have got so many different ways that I'd love to like approach things, because I was reading that your father maybe was exposed to many different kinds of foods. You had plenty of questions. You also went to study jazz in Miami. What's your instrument?
So I grew up playing classical piano.
Oh, okay.
So as I was speaking earlier, my parents bought a baby grand piano. Yeah. I'm the youngest of three boys, and they're like, "Well, shit, so you guys got to play."
Did your brothers play at all?
They did. Yeah. They just played and took lessons until they're 18, went to college. I grew up playing that, and when I was a young teenager, this is gonna sound so weird. I saw a drum. I saw a drum set, and I think it was on Full House, maybe. And I was
Jesse and the Rippers.
I just was like, I wonder what a drum set sounds like in real life.
Yeah.
So,
That's a great question. That really is.
Yeah.
A good question.
So I asked my parents, and they were like, well, let's just get you a snare drum. We'll figure it out from there.
Sure.
So I started playing drums, and that was basically what I ended up doing.
No kidding.
Yeah, that felt natural.
Yeah. Wow.
Playing piano in front of people was always a little bit strange, but even from the beginning, like playing drums felt pretty natural to play in front of people.
Interesting. So when would you say like you first got what year are we kind of talking when you first
I was like right before high school when I started playing drums, so like 8th grade, like the end of middle school, and then I got in high school, and that was basically all I did. I was in bands and played in the school band as well, played in like punk bands and whatnot, and
no shit.
Yeah, and then went to school for jazz, and
because it's a different style of drumming than it is being a punk drummer.
It's a little bit different, but I remember one of my first teachers, he was saying if you want to actually be a working drummer, you need to learn how to play everything. So I played when I was in high school. I played for the Richmond Philharmonic in Richmond, Virginia, and
how many in one of a big set of percussionists or like the
like one of the percussionists there. And so I did the classical. I did drum corps and traveled to California and the rest of the country doing that.
That's amazing.
Yeah, punk bands, whatever bands.
So because we got to talk about punk for a second.
Yeah.
Today, oddly enough, this is really good timing. For some reason, and I don't know why, I went back to listen to Suicide Machines. and Ivy and stuff. I went down a wormhole, Pennywise, all the old Epitaph stuff. I don't know what the fuck happened. I don't know. Maybe I was like politics. Maybe.
You opened the gate, man.
The gate. It was just a deluge. It started with Bad Religion, and then it went down. I'm like, ooh, Rancid. Yeah, Rancid. Yeah, let me dig into that for a second. Pain. So when we talk about like Richmond, Virginia, so are you from Richmond then?
I grew up in Richmond. Yeah, I moved around a lot, but I grew up there.
Was that kind of the main place you're getting to learn drums with piano and stuff?
Yeah, that, and it was it was kind of like little DC, so like Fugazi, Discord, like all that was like.
Again, today, I just learned that Discord put, not all, because there was a couple of albums missing actually, but most of their material on Bandcamp.
Thank you, Discord.
Right, exactly. Thanks again, Discord. Thanks,
Good Tuesday again.
Yeah, that's insane. So because I always want to know who was really driving the way that you played drums at that point.
It was always kind of strange. People ask me like, drummers, what's your favorite drummer? But
well, not favorite, but maybe at that time, like, what was really impactful?
I really enjoyed bands or musicians. Obviously, Fugazi was one of my favorites, and I think just coming from that was the idea of when you're playing on stage, like you're literally giving everything you have. Like you're giving yourself over. Like you can act however you want to act. Like you can be calm, but like that's your time to let everything out. And that was kind of like the way I ended up playing, especially in those those kinds of bands and whatnot. Like, yes, there are times where you don't play technically correct because you can barely hold onto your drumstick or you're breaking cymbals, but
you're bleeding, whatever. Right?
Bleeding, but that's the way I've always liked to play. And
have you ever seen him?
What's that?
Live?
Fugazi? Yeah, a couple times. Yeah.
So when you talk, because one of my favorites always. Always tried to get a shirt in '96. I kept trying to get that fucking "This Is Not a Fugazi" shirt. Could never find it. Now you can get it at Urban Outfitter.
Yeah,
it's great.
They never sanction any of their shirts.
Progress,
great.
I suppose. Progress. But no, the one thing that I really loved about them, and I've seen them just once, but at the Legendary Emos, which was a treat. Yeah. But they don't write a set list. So when you talk about, I think about that when you kind of talk about like just feeling it and making mistakes and doing this, watching them kind of shift and like turn the ship around into a song that they all have to. It takes a couple seconds if you don't have a set list, but to watch them all course correct and then just like the Ghostbusters, all the proton packs just uniting takes a little while,
Yeah,
it's an amazing thing that I think we don't see in music all that much.
No,
not planned, unplanned.
Yeah,
uncouth, not polished,
Yeah, it's become it's definitely become a lot more. I don't know. I mean, people don't go see live bands as much anymore. I mean, here in Austin maybe a little bit different, but a lot of places now, like you'll listen to like one song off of Spotify or whatnot. Right. You don't dig the band, and that's it. They might be playing there next week, and you might have loved them. I mean, still, I'm glad when I go see bands, and like when I was in New York, I Actually ended up going to see Trail of Dead. We're playing up there.
Oh,
A
man.
la Austin.
There you go.
So they're
See
playing.
those
Yeah, it's like this whole circle, and they're playing their entire Source Tags album.
That was that tour.
Yeah, it was that
Just
tour.
listen to that record today too.
See,
this is real messed up.
yeah.
It's lovely record though. Brings back so many memories.
I mean, it's so good.
Yeah.
So we went to go see them, and this French band La Femme opened up, and I was downstairs like having a drink. I was like, let's go check out this band. And I was like, this band is great, And again, it's like, thank God for live music,
Sometimes it's the only thing that brings me back to being a kid.
Yeah.
And I mean, I didn't like getting shoved around then, and I still don't like getting shoved around now, which is a little bit. I look a little more surly now because of the gray hair and shit. Like people don't like.
So everyone knows he's not that surly looking. Okay. Yeah.
But no, it works enough. It works enough.
Right.
But it is one of the last things, and and I mentioned this, and perhaps this will be just the thing I say in most of the shows, but you got to go get a drink. That's one of the only things left that you have to experience in person.
Mm-hmm.
To get a good meal, you have to go and experience it in person. And to really connect with music, you have to go and see live music. You can listen to a record, which is great.
Yep.
But saw the Foals recently.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing record. New record's incredible. Our newest record. Live, it just transcended even exact how it sounded on digit. Like you have to. It's just one of the last things that you have to go and experience in person.
And this is the same thing, like you were talking about going out to eat or getting a drink. And I even feel like that's starting to get lost because everybody, it's this whole, like Food Network-y kind of thing.
Yeah.
And they watch TV shows about going out to eat, and that's how they think they should act. And they go there, then they just take pictures, and they look at a menu, and they order from the menu. Yeah. They ask things like, what's your concept? And I'm like,
what's your concept?
This is the worst. This is the most annoying thing I've noticed.
It's like, what does your band sound like?
Yeah.
It's the same shit.
Yeah, it's just like, it's like, well, what's the concept of this place? I was make good food. You enjoy it. You purchase it. Get something nice to drink. You talk. You hang out. Like, be adults and like.
Is that not good enough?
Yeah, I was like, what is this now? And I feel like a lot of people, and what I try to do, and hopefully try to instill like the people that work with me is. The idea of being human again, like if somebody sits down, like say hi, like if you see that they're inundated with the menu and they look troubled, just ask them, hey, put that down, like chat with me. That's what I'm here for. Like let's talk.
Yeah, exactly.
And introduce
them. Human element.
Exactly, and I feel like that's gotten lost a little bit of music, and to a certain degree, like you were saying, like people, you go out, you still have to go out, and I still feel like a lot of times. People might be cut off, or the service, or like the idea of giving good service is a vehicle for you to be yourself, and hopefully
perform in a way, right?
Yeah, and it's just it's you connecting with somebody and making sure they have a good time. So, I mean, obviously, like growing up playing, I've always been at a bar.
Yeah,
I've
and for other people, always sharing moments, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like honest. Unabashed moments with people.
Exactly.
You can't hold back a simple crash.
Yeah.
Once it's like serving a drink. Like once it's out there, man, and people taste it. Like there's no way to refrain that.
Exactly. So that's just an environment that I've always liked, like playing music or being in bars or whatnot. So.
Well, what time? Like, so you go through and you study jazz. It seems like, and we talked about Sound City, which we're going to talk about. Like, it seems like it took you pretty far, but in what capacity? Were you in a band that was touring around a lot? Were you doing solo stuff, studio musician?
So, I went to jazz school, and like many people that go to jazz school, you leave before you graduate.
It's a way to do it, I guess.
So I went there, but it was great. Learned a whole lot. Started just playing in different groups. Started private teaching at that point.
Oh, cool. And this is in Miami, or did you move?
I had gone back to Virginia at this point,
okay.
And then I was drumming with the drum corps. One was out in California, like in the Bay Area.
Mm-hmm.
Another one was out of Charlotte, North Carolina. And then I taught for a while in Jacksonville State University in Alabama. And then
how old are you now?
40.
Are you really?
Yeah, I just turned 40 on July 14th. Yeah.
God damn, man.
Still days.
You don't look 40.
Thanks, man.
So I don't look surly. You don't look 40.
Yeah, all right, good.
The only things we've learned thus far.
I'm happy with
very
those
superficial visual things.
It's fine.
That's all right. We'll go with it. So yes, you're doing. God, it sounds like lots of stuff, lots of teaching, maybe some traveling as well.
Yeah, I did that. A lot of touring, and then weirdly enough, I had another dream of. When I was growing up, I was either wanted to be a drummer or a Navy SEAL.
Really?
So yeah, I left one day from my teaching and went to I was 24, which is getting to be like the cutoff age of going to that training. So I went to the recruiter as soon as I got done like teaching a bunch of students and signed up and left and
to
did
be
that.
a Navy SEAL?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
So
all right. You got to realize, like, it's not like a real straight shot from. I know plenty of drummers, like real shitty Navy SEAls, like easy, you know. So, what was it about that? Was it the discipline? Was it the rhythm? Was it the intelligence? Like,
again, another stupid thing, like watching like Full House on the drums. I was like a little GI Joe character, Torpedo, and I asked my eldest brother, I was like, "What's a SEAL?" And he's like, "Oh, they're one of the best people at what they do." And I just didn't want to be. I literally would say 40. I don't want to be 40 and regret not trying what I want to do. So, so
good on you. Shit.
Yeah, I went ahead and did that. And then broke my feet.
Both of them?
Yeah, in training.
What happened?
They're not really sure, to be honest. You see a lot of stress fractures that turn into breaks, but the doctor said it looked traumatic, but nonetheless had 5 metatarsals that broke. So healed up. I got out of the Navy and then went right back into working in restaurants.
Did it affect your ability, like, for kick to play?
No. They're pretty much all right.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
but to the Navy, they're like a little bit of a liability, maybe, right?
Yeah, but no, they're pretty good. For now, I'll probably ruin the rest of my body from like drumming and working in restaurants. But yeah, I was just like working in restaurants, throughout that whole kind of time, like teaching as well. Yeah. And then just put myself right back in the, the music and service industry thing. And
where did the service industry bug come from? I was reading that you asked your dad a lot of questions about French cheeses and wines and like Portugal and stuff like that. So did it come from home?
Yeah, definitely. My dad used to, travel around for work.
What did he do?
He was an executive for like a chemical company, basically.
Cool. Okay.
But he would travel around, and it was the days, where you didn't have the internet. So he ended up falling in love, especially with France. And he would go there for like 2 weeks a year and just visit all the vineyards, find his favorite wines, and then just have like wine shipped over. And so I would ask him, and he'd have like his big encyclopedias of wine. So everything seemed like really mysterious. I would ask about different foods, and he's talking about like in Korea where he opened this clay pot and there's like beef tendon, and I was like, how do you eat beef tendon? He's telling me about beef tartare with like a raw egg.
Because it's like matter of fact for him, right? He's like, well, I've been there. But for you, it's like magical.
Yeah, I mean think about the food that we all ate in like the 80s, It's like
corn dogs?
Yeah, maybe? Corn dogs, meatloaf, mac and cheese. So all that seemed like pretty...
Bagel bites.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
So good.
So yeah, I guess it kind of, that sort of caught me a little bit. Like my dad would make like roast like a lamb. He allowed me to like throw the rosemary on. And I remember like sitting outside and it would be light out, and then it'd be, 11 o'clock, and it'd be dark, and we would have sat out for dinner for like 4 hours. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's what kind of got me into all that.
So he's also a cook?
Yeah, he would cook a little bit. He was a meat judge for the 4-H club in Michigan.
Really?
This was actually a thing. Like
pre or post slaughter? Because I hate to make it so morbid, but
no, it was post slaughter. People would bring raw cuts of beef, and he would judge those raw cuts of beef.
That's crazy.
So
what do you judge a raw cut on? Marbling?
I would assume so.
Yeah,
and again, like I asked him, okay, well, what's the best beef in the world? And he said aged beef, and I thought he was fucking with me. He's like, no, you let it rot, and it becomes green. I was like, I don't have the internet to consult to see if he's lying to me or not.
It's like when your dad's like, no, lick the floor. It tastes real good. Like you just trust him. You're like, all right.
My dad's trying to kill me.
Yeah.
But they just started.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I worked in kitchens. Like I grew up like as a dishwasher, working my way up. So
that's what people in bands do.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a job you can always get, right?
Job, I love it.
Totally. Yeah.
So I was like, toying around with going to like culinary school, but ever since then, I was just kind of really, really interested in it.
Amazing. So you it starts at home. I mean, this is kind of a similar thing for me. One of my mantras is that I was eating cilantro as a white kid in the Midwest in the 80s.
That doesn't happen.
That does not happen. Thank you, Mom. That does not happen. She would just read stuff, and she'd be like, let's use lavender in a salad. Like, fuck, okay.
All right.
It tastes so strange, but yeah, Swiss chard and lavender. And,
keep telling me it's supposed to be good.
But it when you're younger and you're impressionable, you're like, this opens this whole other cultural realm
Mm-hmm.
for us as kids. And I almost feel like, we talking about how, whether it's technology's fault, maybe it's the way that we've all grown consciously, I don't know. But I don't feel like there's that inquisitive mind in the same way, right? Because everything is, well, what's a this? What's a lamb leg? What's a ham on?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, I'll just go look it up. What's Iberico ham? All right, well, I'll just look it up. Instead of having to discover it, and say like, shit, this is good. What is this?
Yeah.
It's all different now.
Yeah, exactly. And then, especially to a certain point, like nobody wants to sound stupid or like they don't know what they're talking about.
That's right.
And I mean, I will be the very, very first person if like I don't know how to pronounce something on a menu or whatnot, be like, how is this pronounced and exactly what is this?
Yeah, that's a great question.
And I love that. And that was, one of my, favorite things, especially like in New York, going to different restaurants and whatnot. Like I had one of my favorite restaurants down the street was a Serbian restaurant. Oh, wow. And I'll ask them like exactly like, how is this pronounced? What is this?
Yeah.
And I love that kind of stuff.
I do too.
I think it's weird when everyone's so worried about like they want to seem like they know everything.
It's like the Jimmy Kimmel thing. Do you ever see that where he did go? I remember when I first met my wife, she showed me this video. She was describing how it's Coachella 2014, and someone from the Jimmy Kimmel show disguised as someone that could have been working at Vice or something, right?
Right.
Like a cool person, fucking cool. And then they're looking around and they've got a mic and they go, how do you guys feel about butt chugging butt plugs playing at 2 p.m. on the center stage? Like, and they're, it's all fucking load of shit, right? And the people are like, oh yeah, really, really excited to see them. Like, they've got a really good sound. And so, to your point, like, no one wants to say like, nope, never heard of it, man.
I really love their early stuff. I really like, yeah.
I love their early stuff.
Yeah,
It's before they went mainstream.
Yeah.
But you're totally right. Like, I mispronounce shit all the time, and I love it.
Yeah.
Because I get to meet, so like with mezcal varietals, that's something that I love Spanish, and I love the names of food. Mm-hmm. And so I'll say something. Here's a great example when I go back to this. I had this word in my head for fucking months. And so I interviewed David Suro, who does Siembra Metal, Siembra Azul. Wonderful gentleman. Been there, done that. Very academic. Okay. Yeah. So I was at King B, and they have this mezcal. And it was like INAQEDIN, something like that. Mm-hmm. I was like, oh, it's in Aquadines, right? And so I said that to David Suro.
Right.
He's like, no, it's in Aquadines. It's like, fuck. Because like I'm like recording, saying it wrong, And I'm just like, well, man, legs between my legs. But I love that. I love like just stumbling onto the correctness of terms.
Well, that's the fascinating thing about booze, wine, cocktails, food. I know everybody says that it's vast and it never ends, but I mean it really doesn't. I mean, let's say music, sure, like on a guitar, like you can spend you can spend 5 lives, but it's still like the same amount of strings, same amount of frets.
Right.
But food, my favorite is like going into a market and if I don't know like 90% of what the hell I'm looking at, that's exciting to me.
That's so exciting. I love it.
Yeah, I'm like, is this even edible? What I'm looking at, I'm not sure.
That's a thing. Like, oh man, I saw. Sometimes it gets dark. I don't even go there, but I saw. I was in Japan at the fish market in Tokyo.
Tsukiji.
Yeah. And brilliant. Same thing. I was like, oh my god, fresh wasabi. We never see this. And I was like, can I buy some? I was like, yeah, but it's really expensive. Well, fuck, I'll just still, But you see turtles and you see like all this stuff that becomes kind of real. But still, this vast wonderland of all these fucking ingredients. And you're right, like it never ends.
It makes me happy.
It makes me happy too.
Yeah.
Well, before we talk about Sound City, which I've got to do, think about like in all the places that you've been, is there a bite of food that's really satisfying for you? Because I'm kind of hungry, so think about that. Not your favorite, not like, oh, what's the best this, but like, what's something that you go to and will always be really satisfying for you?
This is going to sound very, very weirdly elitist, I'm sure, because it is
truffles.
Chris? No, it's not truffles. Okay. It's not truffles. It's not truffles.
Then we're fine.
And I'll say this because it did originally come from a very humble place, and you actually even have brought it up.
Oh,
earlier. Really? Jamón ibérico de bellota.
Oh man.
And I'll say, yes, it is a luxury ingredient, But if I have one bite,
Mm-hmm.
it really like puts me back in Spain, or just puts me in a completely different mindset when I eat it. I know that's not an everyday thing. It's not like your comfort food you go to, but it's probably one of the bites that I'll have that's most like, I guess, transformative, I suppose.
Yeah. Oh, I love
And weirdly enough, I realized how lucky I was, even though I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. My first job when I got here, I worked at Jeffrey's in West Austin.
Yeah. Love it. I used to live right around the corner.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Which is surprising. Maybe we ran into each other.
Maybe, yeah.
Was Adam working back there at that point?
I don't know.
Adam Bryan. Okay.
Probably, yeah.
Fair enough.
So, they put me in a little white sport coat, but there was an appetizer, which was little jamon iberico de bellota on top.
Uh-huh.
And so the captain would go and slice the leg. Obviously, they took the hoof off because it's here in the U.S.
Right.
And I think about that now, and I knew how lucky I was. Unfortunately, like there's no like expert cortador to show me like how to like slice this.
Yeah.
But just to know it, I always like to look, very much the bright side of things. And now I know now that there's not going to be any other time in my life for a job, at part of my job, that I have to go and cut.
You're a guy that's allowed to cut it. Yeah.
Right. And that'll be the only time I've ever done that. So it's one of those things you take away, like every job you take away something. And I'm like, well, that was really cool. I'm sure I cut it like shit, I'm sure. But still,
you got to cut it.
Yeah. And I got to see it every day.
Olympic torch.
Yeah. I got to like smell it every day. Yeah. So, so I know it's not the most like down to earth comfort food, but
it's one of those things. And have you had that Iberico Mezcal Del Maguey mix?
You know what? I have not.
So we're gonna drink that next.
Awesome.
Well,
okay.
Because you got to try it, because if you like it, and Iberico is that thing, and it's salty, and it takes you back. It's good that we don't get to have it all the time.
Yeah.
It's good that I try it like maybe twice a year.
We would turn into monsters if we drank it every day.
But then where does it go?
Yeah.
It's like, well, cocaine's not enough for me now. I've done crack. All right, hand over the next thing,
I'm eating heroin now. I don't know what's going on.
It's nothing. I can still stand straight. What the fuck? Come on, let's go. So it's good. It keeps you humble, and like the infrequency of great things is actually something I think is really, really
I concur.
Important. All right, so I got it because I love Sound City. I love Dave Grohl. He's like part of me. You're just a few years older than me, but that was a really big, influential dude for me. Fleetwood Mac. My mom was into it. Tom Petty. So how did you end up at Sound City?
Sound City. Yeah. So I at this point I was back in Richmond.
Okay.
And
was this after the jazz stuff?
Yeah. This was like my mid-20s. This was right after I got out of the Navy. So, I mean, literally, it's like, oh, you're done in 2 weeks, and you thought you had your next 6 years planned out.
That's right.
So it's just like, what the fuck do I do? All right. Yeah. I know. All right, we'll go back to Richmond. My family wasn't there anymore, but
where did they move to?
My mother lives in like Virginia Beach, like not far. My brothers live in Florida, but I just ended up back there and teaching again. Yeah. And working, and then a guy that I worked with said that there was this other dude, this guy John Sullivan, and he at the time he was playing in this like pop band called Jack's Mannequin from California in LA.
I know that band.
Yeah. So he like actually.
Did you say that thinking I wouldn't know who it was, or did you just like say it past like kind of
I don't know. I don't know.
They were a thing. I think they were a thing.
He's a little pop guy. Yeah. He comes through here in town. Sometimes.
For sure.
But like everybody in the band, not him, were all buddies that I knew from Richmond. Mm-hmm. And this guy the bass player was starting a second band. Weirdly enough, 2 bass players, and he was just looking for a drummer.
That's strange.
So yeah, we got introduced and started playing. And then the last couple recordings that they did with Andrew McMahon and Jack's Mannequin were at Sound City. So he was good buddies with like everybody there.
Oh man, because it's done deal now.
It's done. It was on the way out when I can't remember her name, but the studio manager, like when we got there, and he, they gave us a really good price to come in there because they liked him.
But the main it was a Neve board, right?
What's that?
It was a Neve.
Oh yeah,
that still was all like
everything was there. Yeah, so
you recorded on the Neve board.
On the Neve, yeah. So
damn, that's like sleeping with Sinatra.
It was pretty fucking awesome.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I was definitely trying to take it all in for sure. And the manager said that they would be, closing. it was really hilarious because first time I recorded, the day we got in was the day after Metallica had just left.
What were they making?
What's the name? I don't like Metallica. It was the one
with Rick Rubin?
Yeah, it was the one that won the engineering Grammy.
I think it was Death Magnetic. Wasn't it?
It must have been
the crazy shitty snare drum that's like overcompressed.
Yeah, and the funniest thing was that the guy said that they did the recording at Sound City. Like that was the day before they had like the entire hallways were taken up with hard drives. I mean, like so much like information, and they said it sounded like really good when it left Sound City, and then some other dude engineered it and produced it, and they're like, "Oh, it sounds like fucking shit now." And then it won the fucking Grammy.
There you go, going back to it. It's all changed, but that's insane. That is like a certain and a very important piece of history that you were like part of.
Yeah.
What did these guys like two bass players, drummer? Did it turn into something?
We had it was a band. I didn't name this band, but it was called Kid Is Qual. So I did 3 separate recordings there. So we'd fly out, we'd play the Troubadour a couple times, and so we go out there and it's the best drum room as far as I'm concerned in the U.S. or was
at the Troubadour. Or
no at Sound City.
I just think of who else recorded there.
Yeah, it was insane. And then just like
dropping my head.
Yeah, walking around and talking to the guys, and everyone's talking about everybody and how like Lars Ulrich was the only dude that ever used the gross shower in there. And then of course like they had a piano and these special like covers on it, and they're like, oh yeah, we did that for Elton John.
Oh
and
my god,
like,
that's incredible.
Stupid. Yeah.
How did it feel like being in there? That's an apex of many people's careers.
Yeah,
it would be for me. I would if I could just play guitar in there.
Yeah, it was one of those times where you sit down to drum and you really just kind of have to like shut your brain off for a moment, because if you thought about it too much, you get a bit nervous and forget. And like we had like one of the top drum techs, and he brought in like one of his old beautiful snare drums. His old drummer for Warrant.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, he was a badass.
That's amazing.
So it's just like all that. It was a bit much. So it's one of those points where you just have to like shut your brain off,
do the job, right?
And just try not to think about it, because I'll tell you, like as soon as I got done and the drums were done and I had my first beer, I was like, oh, I feel so much better now.
How long did the session take?
So each session, it was about like the first day we get sounds, and then I would do drums for a day. So and then like another like 2 days for the other guys.
Yeah,
so.
Not bad.
Yeah, it was pretty rad, especially now that it's no longer around, And
you were at a certain place in time, man.
Yeah, it was good.
It's really, really incredible. Would you say that things got bigger after that, or that was even?
That was a decent time. Without sounding too bad. Like I've never had any problems with anybody in bands before.
Yeah.
Started having a problem.
Very lucky.
With until that guy in that band, and things started unraveling a bit.
Yeah.
We were doing a show at the Troubadour, and it was just like I just kind of had enough. And in the middle of the night, I was just like, I was like, I'm gonna take a taxi to LAX right now, and you can't ever find a fucking taxi in LA.
No,
but I looked around, I was like, I'm out of here. It was like taxi right there, and
that's faithful.
That was it, But we made up since, but that was like sort of my last. And then I moved to New York. And
why New York? Not that wouldn't make sense, being a musician, loving food.
Yeah, I wanted to go up there. That band was the only thing like kind of keep me down there.
Yeah.
And I was going to go up there. We used to play a lot like Webster Hall and other places up there. But yeah, it's like, well, let me go up there, play music, stay working in restaurants and whatnot.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, or fortunately, I'm not really sure, music has gone a little bit by the wayside, and just sort of delved right into bartending and working in restaurants. I was lucky enough to have some friends up there that really took me under their wing, and that was really, really nice. They were the ones that kind of showed me, like, got me into the best places and showed me, the best stuff and all the little secrets and whatnot. So I was fortunate.
I mean, it sounds like just again like a fortuitous series of events that just kind of tossed you into New York. Most people will feel like they've been thinking about it for decades.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna go there like intentionally. Food makes sense, right? I get food, like
right.
You understand the flavors. You grew up with it, but cocktails, like you talk about wine with your dad and stuff, but was booze a piece of that whole equation too? Like, were you guys drinking pastis? Being a fan of France, anyway, pastis and stuff.
He was a little bit more of the wine, but when I years and years ago when that sort of cocktail renaissance started coming about.
Yeah.
So I moved around a lot. Like I said, like I lived in San Francisco, Chicago, Miami, Charlotte, DC. And years ago I was living in Chicago, kind of like when like the Violet Hour was just kind of coming out and reading about cocktails. And it was a brand new thing. And I was extremely interested in it and would go to those places. And that gave me an idea about where the level of that should be. And then of cocktail, of like just sort of a cocktail culture and technique and how good drinks, I think.
So you like understood technically how proficient you had to be to do this stuff. Is kind of what you're saying,
Right? And I loved the idea of sitting in front of a bartender and asking for a simple drink. And at that moment, things have changed throughout the years. But I remember one guy, and he's like, "Okay, well, I'm gonna put some of these bitters on this sugar cube. I'm gonna wait 2 minutes, and then I'll get the rest of the drink started."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Thank you, that's great.
Yeah,
I'll wait."
it's great.
Yeah,
Wait
so this
for it,
is
right?
wonderful. So that gave me the first idea, and then when I went to New York, a good buddy of mine that I knew back in Richmond, he had moved up there, and he was working for like Amoria Margot and that whole group that kind of does Death and Company and whatnot. So he was the one that I didn't work at one of those places, but he vouched for my first job and like introduced me to everybody, and that was that's a huge thing. I mean, it really is kind of a close circle. So again, just like music, I really feel like if you're a nice person and you're willing to work and you're just cool, like decent things will happen.
Sure, absolutely. So, like, don't fucking drummers know it because they're always carrying their own gear, right? Like, so you guys know it more than anybody else. Because singers, like, bass players do too because they're big, those big Ampeg rigs and shit, pulling up 10 flights of stairs or whatever. But there's lots of people that have been in music and have had music careers that are now in the industry, and many people I've had the pleasure of talking to. And I say, if you have never had to carry an amp up a flight of stairs or a set of drums, you have no business like being in any industry.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and so you talk about that, and like having that, I almost feel like parlays perfectly into being in the service industry.
Yeah.
Paying your dues, setting up drums, having to carry stuff, break it down, clean stuff up,
Exactly. And I feel it's, I think the proper attitude to have too is, never feel like you're going to work hard enough where now it's going to be easy. Now I can sit back, like if you have that attitude, then it's the wrong attitude to have.
Totally.
It could be anything like music, service industry, military, anything. Like,
how can you be good at something if you're not willing to always try at it?
Right.
Because it's never done. Learning is never done. And living is never done. And especially when you talk about spirits and shit.
Yeah.
And executing a cocktail, there's no way that's done.
Nope.
So many other frontiers that haven't even been touched yet.
It's just going to get harder and harder. Yeah. And if you accept
competition too, right?
Yeah. I mean, really, it's just weirdly, this isn't to be pessimistic. I actually feel like this is optimistic. But if you know that there's no like pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, and it's just like you're just going to keep going, it's going to get harder. Yeah. And as soon as you kind of accept that, you're okay with it.
Sure.
The kind of people that I hate are the ones that are like, oh, I'm a manager now, so now I can go like dick off now. I'm like, come on,
why?
Man. Like,
what are you gonna do if you peak at 40?
Yeah.
What the fuck are you doing at 50?
Yeah.
What are you gonna do? It doesn't make any sense to me.
No idea. Yeah. I'd be losing my goddamn mind.
I would be too.
If I was like,
I don't know how people retire, frankly. I just couldn't do it. If I had to stop thinking or working or creating, fuck, I would just die. Yeah. I mean, it's not a big surprise like some of these guys off themselves in their 60s. Like, they're done from their creative peak. Like, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Like, of course, I'm thinking of Hemingway.
A little morbid sense, but
yeah. Well, sure.
Yeah, it does. Absolutely.
It totally does. You got to keep doing it. So people vouch for you in New York, which is, like you said, a tight-knit crew. Mm-hmm. What year are we talking when you were
this was... God, the years go by so quick now. I'm trying to remember.
Especially when you're 40.
Oh, Chris. Jesus Christ.
No
decade's going to go by. No kids. No
See?
Kids.
Good. So it's a good, clean 40.
There you go.
I like it.
I'm fine. Let's see. That was like... God, I don't know, like 5 years ago maybe,
really?
Or something like that. Yeah,
a lot of stuff happening at that point.
Yeah.
2010, 2011, it's a crazy time.
Yeah, there was a whole bunch going on. Again, like I said, very lucky to meet really great people. It was the easiest move I've ever done in my life.
Really?
anywhere.
The opposite of everybody else I talked
Opposite of the best friends that I've ever made in any move my whole life, easily concentrated in New York.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Because you think about it, and you know why I think that is? This is my specific perspective. You worked hard all up to that, right? You even went as far to try to become a Navy SEAL, which is not an easy thing. You broke your feet trying to be a Navy SEAL. You put in some good man hours. You paid some dues. So in a sense, like, you never lose that. You always have that on your shoulder when you walk into a place. Like, I've busted my ass doing all this stuff.
Yeah. And the thing is, I love learning.
Yeah.
Like, talking to my buddy, like Chris and other people, like, it's just so much to learn, Yeah. And people will impart knowledge as long as you just work and you stay cool about it.
Yeah.
They will eventually trust you. And I feel like so many people, whether it's like a cook or a bartender, like, oh, I worked here, or I went here, or I went to Noma, or I went to Little Branch or something like that. It's like staging for 5 days and working is completely different thing.
Yeah.
It's great to go, learn a little bit, but it's like, I want to learn how to beat people up. I went to a seminar. Now I know how to. No, you
right.
No,
until you make the mistakes on your own, lose your own money, and ruin some shoes you don't know. I can't tell you how many shoes I've ruined by spilling shit on them. Like, you just do.
Yeah,
but it's different. But then you know that it feels like you have that background. You have those essential experience where you like fuck shit up and made mistakes.
Yeah, and it just it takes time. I think everyone just wants something quickly. Like it takes time to gain the trust of people, and especially if you want to, like I said, I was fortunate enough to like listen to these guys and have them impart knowledge for me, but that was just because I was working hard and just waiting for them to trust me. And then so all I'm doing right now is hopefully take what they're doing and still try and learn. I still like talk to all those guys. A buddy of mine that I used to bartend with, who's incredible, actually just moved to Austin.
No kidding. What's his name?
His name is Travis Hernandez.
Where's he working? Or want to work?
Well, he's actually working at Jeffrey's right now.
Oh, killer.
He managed Middle Branch and worked at Little Branch for years and worked with me at this place, Fedora. So they're talking to, people like that. People have been doing it for a long time, and it's a big help. I know so very, very little, but I'm trying to do it, as best we can do, at Juniper. So,
well, so what brought you to Austin then? Because I think it seems like you had a good gig going. Was it love? Was it career? Did someone poach you? Did I just did I strike a nerve there?
No. Funny enough, my very, very first job. Okay, so preface, I've never mixed dating or love or girls with work.
Never dipped the pen in the company?
No.
Sorry, man. I can't say I've done this.
It's weird. It's weird enough to say that. It's just like saying I've never smoked. That's weird too.
Wait, so have you never smoked a cigarette?
No. I've been the Navy. I've been a musician. I've worked in kitchens and restaurants my whole life, and I've taken like 2 drags of a cigarette.
That's incredible. No. My wife, never a cigarette ever.
Bizarre.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And that was the one I dipped my ink. Well, anyway, so as it is
funny enough, this will go bounce back to my story. The very first job I got, God, this is so cliche. Christmas party comes around.
Okay. I like it. I like where this is. I love 80s movies.
Yeah.
This is where it all happens.
So, the official Christmas party happened. Went out after with a large group of people at the Jane Hotel, and I actually got a gift of a really nice bottle of wine. I couldn't bring it in, so I stashed it in some bushes out front. Forgot about it.
It was chilling.
It was fine. Some homeless guys drinking really nice things from wine. But I just things kind of happened with the general manager.
Oh, your boss?
Yeah.
Wow.
So
upgrade. That's good.
That was we knew it was wrong, and it was completely fine. And there was nothing before that. There really wasn't anything like tension or anything weird like that. Then we, had to talk about it. So 5 days later, got done with work, and she's like, when we meet, like, we just have to like
get this
clear the air.
Yeah, for sure.
Then we ended up making out. And
what better way
to
clear something?
Anyway, that was great. We were both very professional, kept it, and I knew that if we were going to keep the relationship going, I decided that I was going to leave that job.
Yeah.
So made the decision, to leave that so we could actually, kind of be together. So we were together for a while, and she was, like I said, GM, and I was working, at a cocktail bar and restaurant, and it's just too much. I'd get home at like 5:15.
Wow.
She'd wake up about 7. She'd go to work, and it was great.
Maintain.
Yeah, I was just like, how long is this tenable? Are we going to keep doing this? We just needed a break, and Austin seemed to work out. So
really,
yeah.
Wait, so the break happens.
Mm-hmm.
It said it kind of, you're thinking like, well, I'd like a palate cleanser,
Mm-hmm.
maybe an emotional cleanser, whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Just why Austin? Dart on a board, or there opportunities, or?
Well, I lived in San Diego and San Fran. I realized that I wasn't wanting to go back to the West Coast right now.
Yeah.
If there was going to be any place on the East Coast, it would be New York.
Sure, which you're already there, right?
And then I lived in Chicago, and I really liked Chicago a lot. Just I guess we didn't feel like doing the winter. We visited Austin here, went and stayed at the Driscoll, and got a random upgrade to room, which probably helped selling the city a little bit.
Oh my God, yeah.
It even had a name. I was like, wait, it says the Senate room on it. I was like, are we in the right one?
You know how many pages have been killed in there?
Yeah. It's dirty politics down here.
It happens.
It happens. But so yeah, we checked it out and decided, this would be a good spot. A bunch of our friends ended up going to Charleston, like chefs and people like that, but it was just a little too small. And so it's been just working out so far.
Was Jeffrey's the first gig then when you got into town?
Jeffrey's was the general manager and his wife got hired just about a month before.
Oh, okay.
They were from New York, went to LA, and got hired from Larry McGuire.
Yeah.
The general manager there, he was at Per Se for a long time, and his wife, she was manager at a lot of different places. And
it's Daisy, right?
Daisy, yeah. Daisy and Greg Ryan. And I barely remember, my last job was at this place, Fedora in the West Village, and I barely remember meeting her because they were like, oh, she's moving to, it's probably LA at that point. Yeah. And apparently they were, huge regulars.
No
so they knew all my buddies.
Ran across your desk a couple times at least. Yeah.
So they're like, wait, you worked at Fedora, and Tobin and everybody else. I'm like, yeah, McNeil, yeah. So that really got my foot in the door, and so I was lucky on that front.
Amazing.
And,
it's always serendipitous like that.
Like I said, you just can't go around being a jerk, especially in this business.
Yeah, because all you've got is really all you have is your reputation.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about it, no one's looking at like, what's your ROI? No one's looking at your resume. Really? They're looking at your pedigree, perhaps? They don't give a shit if you got a master's or doctorate in chemistry. Like,
nope.
Are you a dick? Good enough for me.
Thank you.
Yes. That's all it really takes.
It's amazing how rare that sometimes is.
I know.
But there's a lot of great
ego and all of that.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you feel? And we'll talk about Juniper, this latest transition here in a second. But how do you feel about people, in a sense, feeling entitled to that bar manager position or that operations manager position, beverage director, like with putting very little time really into the game?
Mm-hmm. Like, having that sense of entitlement.
You see it a lot.
I see a few places where it's weird. You can just you can tell.
Yeah.
Like that human aspect again, and it's like I said, very much like music. Like if you go to a place and you see that the people working there, human beings are very perceptive people, even if they know nothing about restaurants, or music, or anything. They can tell if there's truth or not, And if the employees are excited and the bartenders are excited about what they're doing and what they have, then that directly, correlates from the person that's, taking care of all the stuff, the bar manager or whatnot. But yeah, the idea of they just want to be in a club, anybody like that, that's not really my style of person. That's not going to be my style of place. And honestly, I don't really even bother with it.
It doesn't seem like it's.
I don't get bothered by it.
Yeah, and I mean, I hate to say it's beneath you, but it's not on the same frequency as what you're operating at. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's just maybe like I don't feel maybe there's some people like whether it is in any endeavor that maybe those people are like stealing their thunder or whatnot. Like, I'm not really worried about that.
Yeah.
Like, perhaps I was when I was younger, but no, it's nothing. I feel like if I just keep going every day and keep working and keep talking to people and make sure they have a good time, that's all I can control.
Do you ever care about you as a brand? I mean, we talked about PR a little bit earlier, and Allie, who's great at Resplendent and stuff, and hooking us up. Like, do you matter, right, in the public? Is that important to you too? Being part of the narrative and part of that conversation about Austin cocktails?
Well, I'll give you the easy answer, and then something I've been thinking about as the older I get. One, no, I don't. It's doing that or being important is not important to me.
Being a drummer is a thankless job.
Yeah, exactly. In music or anything. No, but honestly, no. It's the people that I serve and making sure that they have a good time. That's what's important to me. So that's the quick answer.
Sure.
The second, I guess, more mature answer is, when I was younger, as playing music or, bartending or whatnot. And I know that there's a lot of great bands, a lot of great bartenders, a lot of great bars and restaurants that I love that I wouldn't have known about unless there was some sort of, push to let people know about it. So I think you can kind of do that weird capitalism thing without seeming desperate or weird or that you're a used car salesman or it's contrived a little bit. So the older I get, I'm wondering because you have to be confident and enjoy what you do, and I enjoy the drinks I make. I think I would enjoy sitting in front of myself having a drink and having some food. So is it necessarily a bad thing to think about my future and think about that? But it's very foreign to me. I've never done that, so it's hard.
This is not a Chris plug.
Right. It's very hard to think about that or like use a term like brand or something like that.
I know,
but I know what you're saying. It's a good question.
I have to think. I've got kids in quotes because they're the brands, right? And each of the brands have their own identity, traction, personalities, and all of that. And I think like, and it's just as your career in Austin kind of keeps going, I think that you're not going to be under the radar. I think people will start really to take notice, which is probably an unintended consequence or just something that happens, right? Because it doesn't seem like you're fighting to be the guy. You're not fighting to be on the news in the morning or something,
Yeah, it's and yeah, exactly. I and sort of my philosophy in a lot of stuff is, like keep it simple and and within that area you can be, very human about everything. And if people enjoy what I'm doing, that's great. And also, like I said, I mean, I just have like so much to learn, so
Always,
it's such an incredible, vast amount to learn. But yeah, it is something that I think about, just like the reason our move from New York to here, was the idea of like, how long are we going to keep doing this? And let's try something different. So this point here is, I guess, for me to kind of figure that out. Like, I am 40 now. Like, do I want to have my own place? Or what do I want to do? And the thing is, if I do start to go more that route, I'm not going to feel bad like a used car salesman because I'm not selling junk. Yeah, exactly. I'm not like pouring myself out. Like I think people would have a good time, like at the places where I'm at or whatnot.
So how did you this piece, like this most recent chapter with Juniper? How did that come about, and did it feel like exactly the right move for you, career-wise?
Yeah, it was. I definitely think so. Like I said, it was at Jeffrey's, doing the captaining thing over there, and Juniper, the first, basically the de facto GM, was a guy, Nick Baskecu, who worked in the same company my girlfriend worked for. She was really? Actually like the GM and then the manager at this restaurant across the street when he was there for a little bit. So they kind of knew each other.
Oh, amazing. So the GM girlfriend?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is she in Austin now or still in New York?
She is in Austin. She's in the middle of opening a restaurant right now.
Shit. Well, we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
So that'd be great. Yeah, that's good. So you guys reconvened.
Right.
There was some serendipity.
Again.
Yeah.
Yep. So they originally had a bartender who was getting the bar set, and he was supposed to be, the bar manager there. But ended up going to the Roosevelt Room. He had to open that place. So
Wait a minute. Oh yeah, I know.
so
I know this story. Also.
Yeah. So he had to bow out, and it was a little bit. The place wasn't open yet.
Yeah.
But it was towards the final stages, and I guess Nick was like, "Oh, let me get in touch with Chris." And so I met with the guys. They asked about what my philosophy of drinks were, and I was basically saying simple, delicious drinks. I feel like this renaissance it really is so short, whether it's 10, 15 years that it's been going on.
Sure.
And there's so much that was just kind of passed over very quickly because people wanted to show what they can do, what ingredients they can do. So I just sort of talked about simplicity. They seemed to dig that. That was their idea of food. And got offered the job and been there since.
Amazing.
And,
how long now about?
Gosh, it's coming up on a year. No, yeah, and I felt really bad because Greg Ryan, my GM over at Jeffries, he's awesome guy, and I sent him an email. I was like, "Hey, do you have a few moments to talk?" And he responds back. He's like, "Well, since you sent a Juniper email address, I'm pretty sure I know what this is about." I'm like,
"Oh shit,
God, I hate technology."
Best sleuth,
yeah. Like, sorry, man. So I've been there, and it's been really good. Opening a place. Yeah. And learning everything, and I definitely wouldn't, take it back. I feel like I've opened 6 restaurants in the past year from that one place, but it's been really good to learn. Yeah.
So I'm gonna go soon. What would be what's like the staple meal? What is the paramount taste that I'd get at Juniper? Like, give me a cocktail, give me a dish.
Mm-hmm.
For you, anyway. You don't have to project on me.
No. I completely understand. I would probably, I guess sort of that New York cocktail style tends to be, a little bit on the boozier spectrum.
Count me in.
But, but simplistic at the same time. So when we open, obviously Juniper is in the name. So I decided just to make like a very simple cocktail with Bar Hill Gin since
out of Vermont or Connecticut?
Vermont,
right? Yeah.
So he's a guy who's been a beekeeper for like over 50 years, and
he
makes like a very mild like Old Tom style, but the only aromatic is juniper in there. So a couple ounces of that, the ubiquitous Coca Americano, Amaro Moletti. That was one of the first Amaros I had when I went to Morning Margot with my buddies. And my buddy Tobin Ludwig, who I bartended with, he's one of the owners of Hella Bitters. So he used his.
He was in
bitters.
town just for Bar Institute,
just hanging out. With
killer.
him. Yeah, just the other week. Yeah, I guess about a month ago or something like that. Yeah. So use a good bit of that in there, and just very simple, stirred. I would just do something like that, and again, talking about simplicity. There's this really. It sounds ridiculously simple, but there's something called puffy potatoes that has been on the menu from the beginning, and they're basically just like the most airy, most delicious tater tots you've ever had. Kind of like that.
Yeah.
So
that's always gonna work.
Yeah, it's
no matter what.
Man. Yeah. But no, they're really delicious. So that just like sit there and start out with a cocktail and sit outside or something like that if it's not 100 degrees.
Yeah.
And just start with that. Let everything melt away a little bit, and then decide what you want for dinner. That's sort of like my favorite stage. Yeah.
The perfect amuse-bouche.
Yeah. There you go.
I mean, I'm already. I think because Lydia's cooking dinner downstairs, I'm getting these like just subconscious notes of tater tots. Oh fuck, tater tots. Those are like that's food porn for a lot of people, man.
Yeah.
Me included. Well, so we're sipping some bourbon, and we're gonna conclude here. But how do you feel about this Michter's 20-year? 57.1 ABV single barrel. It's fucking good.
Yeah, this is delicious. This is the kind of like weighty bourbon. And what I like about this is that it has. I mean, it's hot. It's got that heat, but just like many things, it's still balanced. Like it has that sweetness. It has all that caramel. It has all that. And it
wood too, man.
Wood, and it weighs on the palate in a good way. That's what you want in something like that.
Yeah.
And what I like about any spirits or food or whatnot, yes, balance is paramount, but has to have personality. You know, and this definitely does. It, you know, like I said, it's the warming whiskey.
It's like I love thinking of you movie fan at all?
Yeah.
I love to think about what Lee Marvin would have smelled like. Right?
Yeah.
And this is what I think of spending an afternoon in LA with Lee Marvin would be like. Right?
Smell it again? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
like,
right.
Just kind of smoky, kind of dark, kind of leathery, kind of bitter.
Yep.
But yet still like you can't get enough and you're going to keep diving in.
Yeah.
Whether it's questions or like, you know.
Go to some sweet, shitty dive bar in LA.
Exactly.
By the way, LA does have the best dive bars.
Does it?
They got some really good ones. One of my favorite places is the Drawing Room.
Okay.
If you ever get there, it's in Los Feliz, and across the street is this place called Ye Rustic Inn.
Okay.
Awesome.
What part? Wait, what part of LA?
Los Feliz.
Okay, Los Feliz.
Yeah, okay. And but the Drawing Room is incredibly awesome. Yeah, like shitty dive bar.
I love it. I think about classic Hollywood, man.
Yeah,
that's all I can think about is dive bars in LA.
So many just broken dreams. It's great.
I love that. Speaking of the last thing, because we talk about broken dreams, but do you want to open your own place? Is that even on the radar for you? It seems like you've got a lot of work you still want to do, a lot of learning you still want to do.
I mean, I guess if you care about what you do and at some point you want to, I would think anybody who has any sort of ambition, would.
Yeah.
I know that everybody in the world thinks that they can do a better job than their predecessor, and it's not that at all. I think it's more of that you want a place that is everything that the place says. It's what you say.
Yeah.
And that shows a little bit of who you are. In a weird way, I wish I could go and work in Europe for a little bit. But I just think that's kind of almost impossible at this moment.
Well, you never know, though.
You never know.
An interesting, just serpentine kind of voyage.
Yeah.
I couldn't have even guessed all the different things.
So perhaps, yeah.
So maybe, right?
Yeah, but I guess the answer would have to be, yes,
something.
Eventually. I definitely would have. I guess I already know 2 pieces of art I would have up already. So I guess that means I've already been thinking about it.
You've already planned the aesthetic. You're
yeah.
You're starting.
One is
the ideation phase.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. One is a. Well, I guess he might have his underwear on. I'm not sure, but Sean Connery in his James Bond days, where he's on a bed, on his stomach, staring at you with his legs propped up behind him.
Wow,
pretty cute. And another one.
Did he had hair then?
Yeah, it was total James Bond,
drop.
Yeah, when
knockout,
he was badass.
Yeah, he was always a badass. Yeah.
And another one is an old photo of, I guess it would have been Alex and Eddie Van Halen with David Lee Roth right in the middle in the back of a limousine after a show.
Oh shit!
It's pretty fucking rad. So got 2 pieces
of art.
I
think I'm already starting to build the machismo stuff.
So yeah, we shall see.
It's brilliant, man. Well, it's been just really amazing getting to chat with you and talk about all this stuff: the booze, the wine, your dad, the drumming, Sound City. Amazing story, man.
Well, thanks for having me, man.
Yeah,
it's been really great.
It's been killer, Chris. Thanks so much for chatting.
Awesome.
Appreciate
Thank you.
Sipping on some bourbon, talking about drumming, talking about bands. Man, what better way to spend an evening, and this time with the bar manager at Juniper in Austin, Texas, Chris McClish. I love his sense of work ethic. I love that he's not out there to get a cheap win. He's working hard, and he's willing to do whatever it takes to establish himself as one of the premier minds and premier creative entities in the hospitality industry, but at no costs to his integrity or his self-respect, which is kind of a surprise since he spent so much time in LA. Ha, ha. So thanks everybody for listening to Show to V. It's been a pleasure bringing these conversations to you, and no matter which mezcal you are thinking about drinking and knowing that there's a new Tequila Ocho 50+% ABV, slightly aged, coming to Texas as of this week. Thank you, Bobby Hugel, for selecting that. Or if you're thinking, man, what Fugazi record do I want to listen to next For me, it's probably in on the Kill Taker. But no matter what you choose, please keep dancing.